How's it going, guys? So we have a challenging question for pulmonary. I literally just recorded this with arrows instead of the numbers and decided, no, I'm going to be an asshole and re-record it because numbers are going to make it a little bit better for you guys. You need to challenge yourself. So we've got a dude who's got COPD, he's got an acute exacerbation. We want to know what's most likely to be seen. Now, you need to know your normal range for pH is 7.35 to 4.5. Your normal range for CO2, do you know? Watching this clip, I'm asking you. Okay, well, normal range is 33 to 44 millimeters of mercury. And then we've got bicarb. Do you know the normal range? 22 to 28. So I actually made this kind of simple because there's nothing in the normal range here for any of these. They're literally just up and down arrows. So now that we've established up and down arrows, if you just know the arrows qualitatively without even knowing the numbers per se, you can get this right. Okay, so our correct answer is E here. Now this is what I want you to know. In COPD, they're chronic CO2 retainers. You need to memorize that. So CO2 is going to be high, okay? So 33 to 44 is normal. So they're going to have a chronic respiratory acidosis where the bicarb is going to go up to compensate. It takes 12 to 24 hours for the kidneys to change. So if you're just holding your breath for 2 minutes, induce an acute respiratory acidosis, you're not going to have a change in bicarb. Okay, but if it's chronic, you get a change in bicarb. Bicarb goes up. Okay, so sometimes pH can be compensated for, sometimes it won't be. But regardless, these are the directions: low pH, high CO2, high bicarb. This is for COPD in general, chronic respiratory acidosis. Now, you need to know acute exacerbation is acute respiratory acidosis on top of chronic respiratory acidosis, acute on chronic. But USMLE can write it like that. They can give you the same question here, just like a one-liner. Do a COPD exacerbation. The answer is chronic respiratory acidosis and acute respiratory acidosis. You're like, that sounds weird. I agree with you. Okay, so the reason this 80 sort of stands out super fucking high, it's because acute exacerbation is literally a jump in your CO2 beyond what it's supposed to be. So this guy with COPD is probably walking around ordinarily with a CO2 of 50. We said 33 to 44 is normal. So he's probably walking around ordinarily with CO2 like 50, 55. With his chronic respiratory acidosis, the bicarb's up to compensate at 30. But then, and don't worry about Winter's formula, garbage. We don't have to get into that. Okay, choice C is the only one that works. So the acute exacerbation can be viral infection induced, and the CO2, which is ordinarily at 50 already acidotic, it's going to jump up, be super fucking elevated. Now it's 80. So he's got an acute respiratory acidosis on top of his chronic, where even the elevated bicarb can't compensate. Okay, so that's what I want you to memorize for USMLE, is that COPD patients are chronic CO2 retainers. They have a chronic respiratory acidosis. You're going to select a down arrow, pH, up arrow, CO2, up arrow, bicarb, because the bicarb's compensating. And then for acute exacerbation, it's acute on chronic, aka chronic respiratory acidosis with acute respiratory acidosis. Your CO2 is going to jump up super fucking high, but the arrows still are the same. So you have a down arrow pH, double up arrow CO2, so it's super fucking high. Your bicarb is still up, but it's no longer high enough to compensate for the acute respiratory acidosis we now have on top of our chronic one. Choice C, correct answer.